Friends, we're continuing our big discussion on the digital ruble with Dmitry Kosten. Very, very fascinating. A little over my head, but not too far over my head. So anyways, guys, we're going to continue on. So anyways, Dmitry, what are we looking at here? Why Russia needs to become a cashless society. That's a spicy title right
Yeah.
there.
So the reason why it needs to become the cashless society is simply because the concept of the old ruble no longer works. That system is collapsing in the very root of it. So the new system is being built right now as we speak, and it has a very different fundamental principles. And what we're discussing right now, what the difference in the principles of that system is. So if we take the example, you ask the example from the real life that I tried to give you, but let's step out from the examples and kind of like speak from the algorithmic perspective. If prior to globalization, with the centralized system of governance, the algorithm of economic growth was working in a such way that you take over the natural resources, you develop those, you take them and you develop them in onto economy, on some kind of like means of production and into factories and start producing the goods. As you continue to thrive and succeed in your form of management and governance, you expand your political power. And as you expand your political power based on that economic model that you represent with your vision, you start expand and enforce your ideology onto others. Yeah. And as you continue to do this, when the globalization takes place and the economy becomes saturated, there is no more place to grow individually. You have to grow. You have to kind of like model the growth collectively. You realize that your ideology starts clashing with another ideologies. So you have to sync the ideologies together. So there has to be instrument of collaborating and syncing ideologies. And then the whole algorithm in the post-global world changes. First, you form the idea. You sync that idea with others. And the idea takes off as a wildfire. You already have the globally developed economic basis. Based on that idea that is demanded by many, you request economic basis or economic capacity. And based on that request for the economic capacity, you request the natural, you claim your demand for natural resources.
To be honest, in some ways, I think what you've just described is what a lot of Russians, to an extent, Russia kind of does this. Like, there's so many presidential grants, and I've met so many people who work in business here, and it seems almost natural to Russians that it's sort of like, okay, we have this idea, let's go to the emperor for the emperor to give his blessing to it and kind of make it happen, which looks a lot more like the bottom of your chart, more so than the top. Whereas Americans think, oh, I see this lake over there, I could build a resort on that lake. You see?
Right. So you're right. It does already happens, but there is a challenge where the central bank and the current credit financial system, the concept of the money undercuts that idea. Is first of all, when you go to the governing body again still has the centralized form, right? Yeah. And it's a subject. One entity or maybe a small group of entities makes a decision. Whether your idea is good or not. And second of all, the money, the concept of the money are still controlled by the central bank. So the government effectively provides you grants, but it takes those grants as debt.
Yeah.
Right. It's a debt monetary system. So the more grants the government gives away, the more indebted on an aggregate level it becomes. I'm not talking about only grants. I mean, of course, the whole economy works this way.
Yeah.
So it creates this fundamental on a micro level. You're absolutely right. This is a kind of like good step forward. But on a macro level, the more government provide grants and the more assistance, the more help, the more it crumbles with the debt burden, where we already see, for example, in the Western countries, where the debt burden becomes bigger than your GDP, and as a result of it, it becomes unbearable because it no longer can be supported by the growth of your GDP.
Okay. All right. Let's see what's next here.
Well, I mean, we are kind of jumping all over the places.
That's all right.
I think we just discuss. Maybe we can discuss the topic of what the cryptocurrencies of the 2023.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Mark Anderson, software's eating the world. What does that mean? All right.
So one of the questions you sent me prior to that, you said you watched the documentary that argued that cryptocurrencies were invested by means of to have a currency not under government control, but have become a weird form of stock investment that people speculate on. And in reality, what are the cryptocurrencies of the 2023? And again, Joe, it's a great question that you ask, but it's also the complicated question that at the end it also depends on the answer to the question depends on the design. Depends on what idea comes to that design. And I want to start with kind of the high level abstraction and historical reference to the Mark Anderson in 2011. And he made this comment that software is eating the world. And what did he really mean? The software is eating the world. I'm answering this question also in relation to the previous questions, why Russia should become the cashless society. The idea of the transformation, we take an example of Uber, how traditional taxi in the real economic sector, where I have a picture on the bottom here, where the real goods and services get abstracted out to the IT systems, and that IT systems allowed us produce, as a result of it, allowed us produce completely different business model with completely different business, ability and efficiency. It happens. It will continue to happen, and more and more of the real world will get covered with will be covered by the power of the IT systems. But what's important here to understand, not as IT system, to understand how this new world operates, that it consists of, on a very high level, at least to understand, it consists of the business objects, which represents the digital representation of the cars, and the relationships between those business objects. Also, the person is represented as a digital entities. Those are, from the software perspective, those are all business objects that have relationship models that can be now abstracted out from the business objects, and this is what I'm talking about: entity relationship models. So I'm here representing where those relationships are being abstracted out, and now we can load those relationships with different rules and conditions and sets, and we have the system, like I mentioned before. We are arriving to the system of let me see where they kind of like pulls it together, to the system of self-embedded models. If you recall this slide where we talk about a system of mutually embedded models, with all kinds of aspects, like how the value gets created and so on. So if we pull all of it together, all the concepts together here, what we have is the step number one. There is a new concept of the money gets created. This is called programmable money, where contractual relationships and function of transferring the value gets coupled or baked together. It's a record in a database that carries not only your transfer of value as a function of money, but also the responsibility related to the transfer of value in the form of the contracts. And then, and this new entity is from the entity relationship model gets abstracted out, and we realize that contract is a relationship model, programmable money is an entity relationship model, management and governance is entity relationship model, and the ownership is entity relationship model. So all of it together gets kind of become the core of this 6-layer abstraction model that you have to kind of take into consideration and build a new form of collaboration.
Okay. Huh. Interesting. All right, that's what's
So, and just to continue this also further, why Russia needs to become a cashless society is if Russia declared itself as a civilization, where we already talked about it, right?
Yeah.
It actually, by making such declaration, it makes a statement that I am managing myself from the level of values, from the value definition layer. And down from the value definition layer, I am defining based on my philosophical, cultural, and so on values. I am defining my legislative layer. Based on those legislative layer, I am building my regulatory layer, and then IT system layer has to subscribe to the regulatory, legislating, and the value definition layer. And that IT systems layer, which is a management layer, has to govern my real economic sector. And if you take that concept out and kind of combined with this 6-layer model, this is how it all together works. And in order to make this working, you have to have new type of system of new type of protocol of collaboration that we call money, where the concept of the value is defined through the contract.
Okay.
And what kind of value gets valued depends on the level of your values defined by your civilization. When we speak about digital ruble, we have to position digital ruble, if we are to do the right job.
Yeah.
We have to position digital ruble in a such way that it represents our declared values. Our declared values of as of Russian people, we said that we are the civilization with our own values, and we are striving for a multipolarity. And if that's the case, then we are deriving to this idea on the right hand side.
Yeah.
Where, like we explained, there's like we shared before, there's a world of ideas, and the world of ideas get together through the intricate mechanisms of assembly and execution, which means that we have to have as an instrument or the protocol of collaboration. In our protocol of collaboration, the concept of the store of value needs to be built in. Because of we have to force the exchange and so on. The unit of account cannot be tampered with. So it has to be predefined for all the players.
Well,
Otherwise,
does Bitcoin already do that? Because isn't there something like 21 million Bitcoins and that's it?
exactly. This
Okay.
is where I'm driving.
All right.
Bitcoin already does it. It's disintermediated. The medium of exchange and global must be global and cannot be controlled by anyone. And if we are to, and of course, the store of value then gets defined automatically. If we are to stay within this system of system of governance, within the centralized system of governance, not only we become the subset of this multipolar world, but we also in the centralized system of governance, the store of value, the very essence of the civilization becomes not necessary, because anyone who stores the value becomes resource enabled, and if you are resource enabled, you start eventually systemically challenge the top of the governance. So the centralized system of governance by design cannot afford fair idea of money. It will always lean to the concept of the currency, where the store of value is either does not exist at all or gets devalued in some way, shape, or form. So this is the mechanism to keep the control of the power by devaluing everyone else. And this is important part. And to separate, to bring this into the very concrete examples. What's the difference between the cryptocurrencies in today's world? If we look at the Bitcoin, I mean, we all understand is a representation of that is a great representative of that multiple world. If we look at the concept of the Ethereum has two flaws. One flaw is that it doesn't have the finite number of units. The units can be controlled.
Oh, I see.
And the second point is the history has shown that the source code of Ethereum can be changed, and it happened in the past. And that changes the rules of the entire system.
So someone can sit on top of the system and manipulate from up top.
From the methodological perspective. Yes. I'm not going to details right now how it gets done, and there's a mechanism and so on. But the fact that it can be done, this is and let's put it this way, in somewhat non-democratic way, less democratic than in Bitcoin concept. That makes Ethereum kind of the bad guy of the crypto.
Oh, really?
Another like where I have a criticism for Ethereum, when you in today's world, the crypto received a bad rap that it's a scam, it's all kinds of people lost money and so on. All of it happened. I mean, aside from losing the Bitcoin, losing value, but all of it happened where people actually lost the money is on Ethereum side. Ethereum has created the concept of the tokenization of the assets, where the idea was great. But the bad side of the idea was that somebody without value, without any sort of committing things to the idea could come and create the tokens and spin them in the form of marketing campaign, collect the money and run away.
Yeah.
So this is the biggest detriment that Ethereum has created to the
and that's essentially why all these sort of weird coins that have weird names, they can kind of come and go and crash. But one thing is, in Bitcoin's defense here, I can say that it's never gone down to zero.
It never gone down to zero, and it's quite interesting where I was watching Olga's Skorobogatova speech, and she was referring that Bitcoin's volatility. And she was mentioning that Bitcoin dropped dramatically on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
Not once she mentioned that Bitcoin spiked a lot more dramatically in a lot more multiple occasions. So it was a great example how Olga is somewhat biasly represents the concept and pushing the idea of central bank ahead and justifying that in a way which is in the legal terms it's called lying by omission, where you don't present.
You just talk about the downside of something without mentioning the other side on purpose.
Right. Exactly.
Gotcha. Because what was the original value of Bitcoin? Was it $1 per Bitcoin? Was that what it was originally at, or?
There was no original value to say from the beginning. The Bitcoin started as a concept, got placed into the source code, and started people started running it on their machines. And for a while, it has no value. It had no value whatsoever.
So it went from zero to whatever it's at today, which is what, $22,000 or something. I don't remember, but that seems to be a very good success.
Right. The very first purchase was a purchase of, I'm sure everybody knows, it was a purchase of Bitcoin pizza for 10,000 Bitcoins. It was a transaction.
Wow.
Today, one Bitcoin is about the early, I looked up today, is 29,000.
I see. That's one heck of a pizza now. It
is one heck of a pizza now.
So one thing is then, would it be then perhaps in people's interests if someone, obviously I can't do it, I have the morals to do it, but I don't have the talent to do it, to make maybe some competitors to Bitcoin that actually behave in that Bitcoin way? Or is that not so easy to do?
Sorry, can you rephrase or maybe?
I mean that, you sort of, on your chart here, we have this Ethereum concept, and we talked about the minuses of it. But there's sort of one, Bitcoin. Would there be any value in someone trying to who has the talent to do it, to try to make an alternative to Bitcoin that still has this decentralization and functions the same way? Would there be any logic to that?
I got it. I understood the question. Well, my point is, if we are to as a Russian society, as a Russian nation, as a country, to live up to our declarations, right, political and philosophical declaration that we are civilization, and we are the striving for the multipolarity. From the conceptual, philosophical, and ontological perspective that later will be designed and engineered into the practical solutions. This is the approach that we need to take.
Okay.
The other approaches where your store of value gets depleted by one or another form is not a viable solution. Because, I mean, why would anyone sign up for my system of values which are based on the fact that the values are depleted? Why?
Well, what you actually did, Dmitry, is I have to thank you because I don't know, since you're really up here on the economic level, maybe you don't hear about this much, but one thing that I kind of find frustrating about the crypto world are people who are really, really into crypto. okay, where they speak in their own language with their own terms. And it was really nice to actually talk about this without blockchain ledger, P2P transfer, no buzzwords. Maybe we could say decentralized is a buzzword, but only kind of halfway. So I just wanted to say thank you, because I've talked to so many people over the years about crypto, and it's just nonsense terminology. And it was so nice to actually now understand what the heck is going on and why these are different and why Bitcoin is the king.
Right.
Okay.
Right. The challenge and the criticism I have for those who speak the IT terminology is that IT is just a tool. IT is just a concepts that that are being configured in one way or another. What sits in what configuration those concepts take place, this is what's the most important here. We are at this paradigm shift where predefined by us, by the fact of the globalization, predefined by us that the economy has shifted from non-saturated state to the saturated state, where we have to be able and learn to collaborate in such way where we don't actually interfere into each other's sets of values, while we tightly, more and more tightly economically collaborate, we are able to maintain our sets of values. We have to design new protocols of collaboration. This is my main driving point.
Okay.
But before we design those protocols of collaborations, we have to think of them in a non-technical terms. Okay. We have to come up and we have to design them like from the grounds up, because ideas, we have to design them as an ideas, and this is what is not taking place right now. Again, unfortunately, in a Russian official space. I'm pretty sure in unofficial space people think about it, but unfortunately, the kind of the government is lagging behind.
Okay. Now, before you go here, Dmitry, I just was kind of curious. You have a couple slides here where I can even see the word solution there. I really want to check these out for sure. So, could cryptocurrencies give us freedom? I guess they could. Could cryptocurrencies lead to more government? They can do both.
Right.
They can do both.
Right. But I guess the whole point of our discussion today, it all depends on depends on the solution. And the solution depends on what kind of ideas and philosophical concepts we accept as a basis for our solution.
Let's see. Okay. And, so, in a lot of ways, a digital currency is almost kind of like a knife. I mean, you could do really bad things with a knife, or you could chop potatoes. Right. Yeah. Gotcha.
So.
Wow. Okay. I feel actually very enlightened, Dmitry. That's pretty good. But in some ways, I'm also a little bit concerned because, because I work in the media. In the media, we like to have answers to questions. And when I was talking to you, I was kind of hoping that I could have this nice packaged answer for my audience to essentially either be concerned about the digital ruble or to sort of not be concerned about the digital ruble. And the thing is, it's kind of an open question.
Let me do the kind of the service.
Well, remember one thing. Here's one thing before I had to cut you off, but there's an important context. Now, these are mostly people from the Western world who are interested in moving to Russia. Okay, so in that context, are the basically, like you have sort of where the Federal Reserve System is going versus where Russia's central bank is going, and I think on some level they're kind of like, which one do I choose? That's kind of the context. You see what I mean?
Right. Well, let me put this kind of in a little bit additional perspective.
Yeah.
The Central Bank of Russia is ahead of Federal Reserve, ahead of the West. at their development. And the approach they have taken is we're not going to change the existing model. We're just going to implement as is the functionality. We're taking the baby step. We are taking the concept of the currency, which we talked about it, and deploy it in the form of digital ruble. If this is the it, if this is it, this is the end of their approach, or if this is the how would I say, the indicator of the direction where the Russian central bank is going, it is not a happy development. But if this is just as a first step and as a transition, like we mentioned before, we're in a plane that is flying, and we have to kind of like make modifications to that plane while it's in a flight mode. Yeah. If this is just a first step, and there are follow-up steps that will continue, then we have a hope, but we don't know about this. The current choice of the two-layer model that Russian Federation, sorry, not Russian Federation, the central bank has chosen is actually the subset to the three-layer model, which is based on, if we speak from the technological terms, I'm sure the experts will know what I'm talking about. There is a two-phase commit and the three-phase commit. It's a very technical architectural concept. Then we can have fully, with the three-state commit, we can have much broader model that will serve to the to the concept of the ecosystem, to the concept of the multipolar world, because it allows actual multiple emittents of contractual money, right? This new concept of the programmable money. And you have to, of course, I mean, you have to have something that is kind of like brings everything together as one global currency that cannot be owned by any government. So when I look on the West side, what the West side is doing, the West side is actually still researching, and there's a quite an interesting project that is done in conjunction with Federal Reserve in MIT, which is called Project Hamilton. And Project Hamilton is also looking and working, but the decision has not been made, and by the Federal Reserve yet. So we don't know which step they're going to take. And the Project Hamilton defines those one-phase commit, two-phase commit, and the three-phase commit, different different layers, and nicely explains also how what the difference are and what the capabilities are. And just because Russia has taken the lead, it is very difficult to assess whether this is kind of like pointing to the direction of, like a bad kind of like a not a good development, or whether it's just a first step. And the West is kind of sits behind, and they're still in the process of the design and kind of wait and see and looking back.
Well, very, very interesting. So, Dmitry Kosten, maybe is there any last thing you'd like to say to this very interesting, unique audience that I have here before you go? Or if you feel you've kind of said your piece here on all these issues revolving this digital ruble here?
Well, the one thing I'd like to say at the end, that this concept of the cryptocurrency, one should not be hooked on the IT side, because like I said before, the IT is just a very late stage of implementing the ideas.
Yeah.
But far more important is what kind of ideas gets taken into building the concept of the cryptocurrency. And like Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of the concept of the Bitcoin, mentioned this is a social experiment. And
Mm. Hmm.
whether the social experiment will prevail or whether it will fail, it is up to us. And it becomes today extremely clear that the social experiment must be accompanied by the high level of thinking, high level of aspiration, where you have to plan further than the concept that you develop. You have to plan further than your personal interest. If you
Yeah.
step and if you stop in the layer of planning and thinking just about your personal interest and you in your design of the solution, and you don't think of the greater common goods, you will fail.
Well, the problem with that is since we've all been raised in a Western style system for the most part on this planet, we can even see that even within China, their economic system actually looks a lot Western, and the Western in the sense of being liberal, that the individual is the alpha and the omega and everything. Most people are unfortunately not really bred to think that way. I was told my whole childhood that the great thing about America is that we're a big compilation of individuals. And then when you get older, you're kind of like, aren't individuals just kind of atomized and sort of out for their own interests? And yeah. So I don't know. We might not quite have the human resources en masse that are available. I hate to be a downer.
Well, we have to and we must. We have to step up as atomized entities and
Yeah.
start taking control of what we are and who we are through our actions and
Mm.
through our choices and through design, also
Mm.
through our work. And we have to learn how to do it in a collaborative way. The How would I say um, the kind of like the comparing or
Mm-hmm.
the like the positioning collective way against the individual way of organizing the society, right? Individualism versus collectivism. This is not the right way to think about it.
Mm.
The best way to think about it, because whether you're individual, you get atomized and manage through the environment governance, through the system of environment governance, and you get like through the system of divide and conquer, or whether it is collective form of governments where someone takes over the uh, the decision making on behalf of everyone.
Yeah.
Those both models have brought us, regardless how they organized, right? Which they both have a one flawed feature. They are centralized form of governance.
Yeah.
We have to learn how to disintermediate those centralized form of governance and work as an ecosystem through the uh, ways of disintermediated ways of collaboration, and that collaboration needs to be the proof that collaboration works is that that collaboration becomes harmonious.
All right. Well, Dmitry, thank you very much. Looks like, guys, you asked about the digital ruble. You got your answer. So, anyways, we want to thank Dmitry for his time. I'd also like to apologize. There were a lot of coughs during this interview. Please forgive me, Dmitry. I'm feeling very under the weather this week. So, forgive the coughing. Not much I could do about that. But, anyways, guys, we'll see you very soon. Tim Kirby Russia, signing out.